All right, good morning. We're going to take a look at how to make a phone stand for the 398 class. There's an older video of this. I wanted to show a newer video that also has some techniques I think is a little bit easier, but we'll be the judge, or you'll be the judge of that. So first things first, as always, start with a save. We'll do a phone stand, and then maybe your last name. I think I've made 4 of these already, so I'll do lum stand or phone stand lum 5. Next thing is, and this is new, right click on the upper part of the browser that says phone stand lum, and we're going to do 2 new components. First one, we'll call it the back. Click OK. Right click again, new component. We'll call these the legs. Right. Last thing, now when I made this one, it activated legs, but I actually want to activate back first. Just make sure you're on the back. We're going to build that first and then build the legs. Last thing, and this is new as well, is we want to make what's called a parameter. Now you'll see in a minute let me pull this over, what this is going to do. But basically, when we build this out of some material, such as let's say wood or acrylic or whatever, not everything's going to be the same thickness. So a couple of these dimensions are critical to the thickness. So we're going to create, essentially, this is called a parameter. You can also think of it as a variable, or in programming, almost a global variable, where you can change this later and the entire model will change depending on this value. So I'm using the name thickness for this. Really doesn't matter. You can do anything you want. Just remember what you used. And then the expression I'm going to use here is 3, because that's a nominal thickness for acrylic if you're going to be cutting this out. It may be 2.75, it may be 3.1, but for now we're just going to call it 3. Click OK. And now, if you haven't already, make sure we're on back. That is one of the components. The other component is legs. Back. There's a little dot here. Make sure that's clicked. Not this one, but you see clicking there. That activates it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to create a sketch. I'm just going to create it on this ZX plane. And then this sketch is going to just be essentially a rectangle with a couple of little rectangles inside. I'm going to use my favorite center rectangle, put it right here at the origin. And then I'm going to use, for this one, it's going to be 70 millimeters wide, but the height is actually a little bit different. I'm going to do 6 inches. So I can type in 6IN or space IN, or I can type in 6 and then the double quotes mark. That also will work. All right, so that's my center rectangle. Next thing I'm going to need to do is cut some slots for the legs to slot into. So rather than putting the slots in and then aligning them, I'm actually going to create an alignment line, or what's called a construction line. So click line up here. I am not going to put it where it goes. I'm actually going to put it a little bit off of that. Let me zoom in so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to click on this line. Now, a lot of times in Fusion, it's hard to tell if you've clicked on something or not. So if you don't know, just click or hit escape. And then I'm going to click on this line and hit the X key. Now that will change it to a construction line, just like these diagonals here. You can also go over here and click under the sketch palette line type. You might have to expand this out to see it. And this can change it from a construction line to a regular line. So this line here, this is regular. It's a solid line. I'm going to change it to construction so it's dotted. Last thing, I'm hit escape again. I'm going to dimension where this line goes. So a few ways to do that. You can go up here to sketch dimension. If your screen's not as wide as mine, you have to may have to go down to create and then find it down here. But also notice it's the D key. So hit escape or click away. I'm going to hit the D key. Oh, not S. I'm going to hit the D key and then click the top of my rectangle, and then that sketch or construction line I just made, pull out here, and this is going to be 5 inches. So now notice it puts it down there a lot lower. This is 6 inches, and then, or its total length of 6 inches, this is 5. All right, I'm going to zoom in one more time here, and we're going to create 3 rectangles. Now these rectangles are going to be the 2-point rectangles, not my center rectangle that I like so much. I'm going to create these 3 rectangles. I'm going to do the length first. I hit tab to do that. That's going to be 10. And then the height of these things, this is one of those dimensions that matters how thick your material is. So I'm going to hit T for like typing in a number, but I can actually type in letters. And notice once I bring up T, it brings up this user parameter thickness. Put that in and hit enter. And I'm going to do 2 more rectangles just like that. T for thickness, and then 10 for the length. 1 more. I'm going to hit tab so you can see 10, and then T for thickness, hit enter, and then enter again. All right, next thing is I need to align these rectangles, and that's where let me hit escape. That's where this construction line came in. So what we're going to use is a constraint called collinear. I'm going to click up here. This is constraints. You may have to click and then come down to it if your screen's not wide enough, but it's this one here, collinear. If you remember from math, collinear means they share the same line. So I'm going to have this line here, which has already been dimensioned, and notice it's black. That means it's fully constrained. So I'm going to do collinear. I'm going to click this line and then this rectangle. Again, this line and this rectangle. And then again, this construction line and this rectangle. Then hit escape. So what that did was it aligned those 3 rectangles to that line. I can still move them left or right. Not well, but I can. But I cannot move them up or down. And you'll notice, let me click away, that the top and bottom sides of those rectangles are black. That means they're fully constrained, but the sides are blue. That means they can still move left or right. So last thing I'm going to do now is sketch dimension again, and I'm going to go from the side of my phone stand to that first, let me zoom in here, to that first side of that first rectangle and make that 10. And now that is fully black, so that means it's fully constrained. So I'm going to go from this one to here. I'm also going to go 10, kind of move down a little bit from here to here, make that one 10. Now you might say, well, can I go from here to here? And yes, you can, but you notice it'll say over constrained. That's because it doesn't need to be 10 because this is 70 all the way across, and then this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So that should do it. Now notice this is blue, and that was because I think I messed up that dimension. So I'm going to click here, and notice it says 3. I'm going to type in T for thickness. And now it looks like the rest. Most of the others have fx, which means a function, which is a user parameter 3. That one didn't. So now if I go up to back and I open that little chevron up, and then I go to sketches and I open that chevron up, notice that is a sketch has a red lock on it. That means that sketch is fully constrained. So that is good. Now you might notice it's getting a little busy here. You can actually go over to your sketch palette and turn off dimensions and even constraints if you want to. I don't recommend it, but if it gets a little busy, you can do that. All right, so I am now finished with that sketch. Now I am going to extrude it. So I'm going to extrude, and then again, notice it didn't turn for me, so I'm going to go like an orthogonal projection or an orthogonal view by clicking my little home here. So I'm going to extrude this backwards or forwards. But this is another one of those key dimensions, and not 5, not 3, but I can actually extrude this thickness. So I type in T, click on it, give it a second to think, and then there we go. All right, this isn't totally done. I need to modify this a little bit. I'm going to round these edges, or these corners, I should say. So I'm going to click on fillet. I'm going to get this guy here. I'm just clicking on, if you notice, I'm clicking on this part here, not the top, not the bottom, not these edges, but that corner. And then I'm going to go down and click on these here as well, this one. And now you don't even have to rotate this. If you hover, it'll actually go behind and pick that one up. So that's what we want there. And then these are rounded off to 10 millimeter radius. All right. So that's essentially it. I'm not going to show how to put a logo on here today, but that is another 15-minute talk, so I don't think we want that. Last thing, I'm going to turn this so I can see the bottom a little bit. And what I'm going to do is create a sketch, and I'm going to round this or put an arc here. So let me click Create Sketch. I'm going to click on that face, the front face, and I'm going to hold shift and my middle mouse button to turn this a little bit. And what I'm going to create is a 3-point arc. So that's under create arc 3-point. And then where I'm going to kind of take this arc to and from, it says place start point. I'm going to start on the end of this fillet. There's a little line there. You can see that. And now it's saying place end point. So I'm going to go down to the start or the end of this fillet, depending on how you conceive of it. And then I'm going to dimension this in a second, but right now I'm just going to hover on this center line and click somewhere, hit escape, then hit my D key again and click that arc, and I'm going to give it a radius. This radius is going to be 35. And so now that rounds that off. Notice it's black, so it's fully constrained, and finish that sketch. And I'm going to basically cut that out by extruding it. And instead of, I'm dragging it down to show I'm extruding it, but I'm going to type in T. Actually, I'm going to type in negative T for negative thickness. So that way it will cut instead of project or extrude, and click OK. All right. So that is the the back of my phone stand. I'm going to click Save and just put in back finished. So I know it's a kind of like a save point or a what do you call it in Git, or a version control. So I know this is as far as I've gotten with this. All right. Let me close up these sketches. Notice that sketches also has a red lock on it. That was fully constrained, but it was just that arc. Close up the back chevron, and now I'm going to activate my legs. Now, when I activate legs, notice what happened. Back was this kind of grayish material, steel. You can kind of see through it. When I activate legs, it turns into a wireframe, almost translucent. This is still the front here, and it's there, but it tells you by not being shown in a dark gray or whatever other color you choose, it's telling me it's not active. I am going to rotate this, and I can rotate this way, or I can hold down shift and the mouse button, the scroll wheel, and I'm going to create a sketch on the back of my back. Now, that's a lot to say there, but create sketch. Now make sure you are in legs. If you aren't, hit escape. Make sure legs is activated. I'm going to create sketch, and I'm not going to do it on any of these planes. I'm actually going to just click the back of this phone stand. All right. So now again, I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to go from edge to edge. I'm not going to put it exactly where I want it, but just kind of put it edge to edge. I'm going to dimension this now. This width should be thickness. And now notice the sides are black, but I hit escape here. I can still move this up or down. I can't move this left or right, but I can move this up or down. And where I want this to be is I want this top edge to be aligned with these rectangles. Well, that's easy. Collinear again. I'm going to click the top of this. Make sure if you're sometimes it's hard to know you've activated something or whatever. Hit escape a few times. Collinear. Click the top of this rectangle and then the top of any of these. Now if I open this up here, sketch, notice it has a red lock on it. That means it's fully constrained. Click finish. So I'm going to rotate this a little bit. Now we're going to extrude this. This is going to be, since these little cutouts are in here, I got to actually select all of them and extrude this out 60. Should be a new body here, not join or anything like that. New body, click OK. And then that's the back of my phone stand. So this will actually be on a tilt when it sits down. Now I'm going to rotate around here for a second. And I want to build little legs sticking out the front. The farthest ones, the exterior ones, are going to extend out a bit. This middle one is just going to extend so it's to the face or the front of my back there. All right, so how do I do that? Well, the way I'm going to do it is actually by turning off back. There's these little eyeballs here, and you can turn off components. So I'm going to turn off back for a second. Notice that just goes away. And I'm going to create a sketch on this face here. Now it goes away. It kind of rolls down a little bit, so let me bring that back. So what I want here are 3 rectangles, just like the other ones. There's 2 ways to do this. You can literally just sketch these in, or I can turn this around and click P for project, And I can project this entire back onto my legs. So I click P for project. Let me escape and show you again. I type P for project. That is also under create, and then down here project. And then I want, instead of just entities, I want the entire body, and I just click on the back or the front of this. Click OK. And now notice everything showed up. All of the boxes, the arcs, everything. That's what I want. But I now don't want this back in the way. So I'm just going to turn it off again. So there it is. I'm going to now finish my sketch, and I'm going to extrude this one and this rectangle out 20 millimeters. So I click 20, click join, or make sure it's joined. And now that's those two. Now I do want this one, but what happened was once you've done extruded, or once you have finished extruding something, the sketch typically goes away, but I can just bring it back again with that eyeball. And I'm going to extrude that middle rectangle, but this one's only going to go thickness. And then click OK. Turn off that sketch again. And now I have those three. So if I turn back on again for a second, you can see now that that extends through there, and it kind of locks these two together like little fingers. So we're good there. All right, while we're here, let's go ahead and fillet these four little guys here. I'm not going to fillet these two because these don't project through or don't extend through. And according to my measured drawing here, these are radius 2. We're good there. All right, last thing, let's get around back here and do some more filleting. So the back, it looks like this is filleted to a, what does it say here? I think I'm just going to do the same as before. I don't know if I put it on here or not. I'm going to do the radius of 10 again. So I'll fillet these right here and right here. Do those 10. And then I'm going to do another one of these cutouts again. So I'm going to go ahead and create sketch. Start here. I'm actually going to do two things. So let's do that arc. I'm going to turn this so I can see those fillet edges or those fillet marks. Create arc 3-point. Started this one. Notice that box shows up to tell me I'm right there. Here. Pull this out a little bit. Dimension it by hitting the D key and clicking on it. And this one is a radius again of 35. And then I'm also going to put a circle in here. So I'm going to click circle, and I'm going to go, see that green line right there? I'm just going to start somewhere on that green line. This is a diameter of 30. And then it all depends. I think this one, I can't remember exactly where we put it. So let's just make something up. We'll go from this edge to here and call this, let's say, 35. Now it's still not fully constrained. I think it's because I was on this green line. So let's do another dimension. We'll go from the circle to the outer edge and also call that 35. And now it's fully constrained. So I kind of just put it in the center here. This could be 30. I can just double click and change it to 30. That's a little close to that cutout, so I might put that back to 35. All right. Click Finish Sketch. And now I'm going to extrude both this circle and this arc downwards. So that's negative. So it's going to be negative thickness. So I'm going to do negative T, enter, and we're good to go. All right, so those sketches are fully constrained. I can see that. So let's turn back on. So, oh, it is on, but notice it's not activated. So you're like, well, how can I get both of them to show up at the same time? If I go back up to phone stand and activate the whole thing, this is what it looks like. So there's my phone stand there. Bonus points, you don't have to do this. I can hit the A key for appearance, and I can go down to and pick what color stuff I want. So there is one called glass. and there's window glass. I can just drag it over and put it on both of these, and it will change it to, click close, and it will change it to like a bluish window glass instead of the dark steel color. All right, so now the whole point of this was to be able to create what's called a DXF file. The DXF file is what you use for the laser cutter to cut these out. Rather than 3D printing them with an STL file, we're going to create a DXF file. So to do that, I'm actually going to open up both back and leg chevron, and then I want those sketches there. You'll see in a second I'm going to create a new sketch. So first things first, go to back and activate it. I'm going to create a sketch just on the front. That's it. I'm looking at it right here. That's the sketch, and I'm done with it. Now that you're like, well, what was that all for? Well, that's so I have a final version of this face. I'm just going to right click on it and then say save as DXF. You put this in your desktop or wherever. I'm going to call this back DXF 3 millimeters. So I know that the dimensions for the thickness were 3 millimeter. Click save. Save, turn that sketch off, and then I'm going to go activate my legs. I'm going to create a sketch on the top of the legs. There it is right there. Here it is. That's all I needed. Finish sketch. Right click, save as DXF. I'm going to call this legs DXF 3 millimeter. Click save, and then that's it. Now you might say, well, I mean, it didn't tell me it did anything. How do I know that this worked? Well, an easy way to do this is go and open up a new tab or new design and go click Insert, Insert DXF. Pick a plane. I'm just picking a random plane, and then says Select DXF file. Remember, it was in my desktop, so I say Select from my computer, click Back. It'll take a second, and there it is. Click OK. And then I'm going to do it again. Insert DXF. Click that plane again. Select DXF file. Select from my computer. And I want to check to make sure the leg's saved. Click Open. And there it is. And I can move this over if I need to, so you can see both. And there's both DXF files. So these are like SVG or vector files. They are good, scalable. They're not, you can zoom in or zoom out on them. And the laser cutters or water jet or plasma cutters, anything like that, uses these two-dimensional files to cut stuff out. You can send this to other places. Just know this was exported as in millimeters. Some places, especially in the US, take inches. So you have to be careful and review with them what size you're expecting. You don't want a phone stand coming back and it's 70 inches tall rather than 70 millimeters tall if you get one cut out. Also, we have a laser cutter here, so if you're interested in making one of these and bringing it in and cutting it out, we can totally do that. All right, that should take care of it. It's been almost 25 minutes. I apologize for that, but I wanted to have this in the can so that way, in case if we run out of time in class, you can refer here as another way to kind of finish up your project. Also, feel free to come in, Evans 127. I will be glad to help you. Early mornings are better just because, God forbid, you need an hour to do this. I'm available, and I'll be glad to help. Have a good one. Thanks.